My husband was demoted and exiled to Lingnan for 3 years for pleading on behalf of a criminal official. When he returned to the capital, he not only brought back the criminal official's daughter, but also their pair of children. I instantly became the laughingstock of the capital. Everyone praised him for his deep Jan-rooted affection and unchanging devotion. I proposed a divorce, but why is he going crazy with regret now? Does their relationship really need me to embellish it? Hey besties, welcome back to Elena's channel. Imagine this scenario. Your husband gets exiled for 3 years for pleading on behalf of his first love. And when he comes back, he not only brings the first love home, but also has 2 kids with her. Then the whole family expects you to pay for their wedding and raise the children. But our female lead today, Xu Wenluen, is all about refusing internal conflict and striking back from a desperate situation. Today is the day Shi Chengyan returns to the capital. The entire household is filled with joy, except for my courtyard, which is cold and deserted. Occasionally, mocking voices of the cleaning maids can be heard from outside the courtyard. They're all saying that Shi Chengyan took a concubine in Lingnan. His white moonlight Lin Qing from his heart. And they even had a pair of children. He intends to elevate her to be an equal wife. And I, this nominal and unloved legal wife, will very likely be divorced soon. Because marrying me was never Shi Chengyan's wish to begin with. He has always said that I prevented him from marrying his beloved, that I tore apart this pair of star-crossed lovers. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been implicated and demoted to Lingnan for over 3 years. When I was called to the dining hall to have lunch together, I saw Shi Chengyan and Lin Qingxi. Having been baptized by the humid and hot climate of Lingnan and the harsh environment, the two appeared slightly more mature with darker skin, no longer showing the high spirits from 3 years ago, but their attire remained exquisite, exuding an air of nobility. Their children were being joyfully held and teased by the elders, a son about 2 years old and a daughter about half a year old. They really did pledge themselves to each other as soon as they left the capital and got entangled together, not idle for even half a year. Sister Xu, I hope you are well. Lin Qingxu was the first to greet me with a bow, her face beaming with smiles, a hint of triumphant provocation in her eyes. I remained expressionless, withdrew my gaze from the children, and asked very flatly, I wonder if I should address you as Madam Lin or Concubine Lin. Lin Qingxu's face immediately turned somewhat unpleasant, and she couldn't help but turn to look at Shi Chengyan, appearing vulnerable, helpless, and pitifully seeking help. This made Shi Chengyan's heart ache, and he hurriedly came to her rescue. She is a Kojian wife. From now on, she will live in Qinglan courtyard. Is young Master Xia divorcing his wife to remarry, or taking a concubine? It should be made clear, lest the servants misunderstand and fail to serve properly. Seeing me being so aggressive and impolite, Shi Chengyan couldn't help but furrow his brows and purse his lips, his face showing anger, because he knew very well that divorcing one's wife to remarry constituted bigamy, which the laws of this dynasty did not permit, unless he wanted to be convicted and demoted again. And speaking of taking a concubine, even if it is as an equal wife, when registered at the government office, it would still be written as a concubinage document. He must feel that this would be unfair to Lin Qingxu. No matter what, Lin Qingxu was like me, once a princess's study companion. After the truth about her father's case was revealed, she was no longer the daughter of a criminal official, but a young lady from an official's family. How could someone as proud as her be willing to become a concubine? He must not want to wrong her, especially now that there is a child. The truth about Uncle Lin's case has already come to light, and he will soon have his official status restored. Qingxu absolutely cannot become a concubine. Shi Chengyan spoke with firm determination. So have you already decided that you want to divorce me? This, Shi Chengyan immediately felt guilty and at a loss, rendered speechless. Mother Jan Luo Zhou, holding her grandson in her arms, suddenly couldn't help but speak up. Ina, don't make everyone upset the moment you meet. It is making everyone feel bad. Sit down and eat. Joshi was trying to smooth things over, wanting to let this matter pass in a muddled way, but I didn't want to let it go like this. There is some resentment I've been suppressing for 3 years already, and I really don't want to continue enduring it. Since we've already come this far, I want a clear answer. I want a divorce. I wonder if young Master Xia agrees. Hearing me say this, Lin Qingshu's face instantly showed a flash of delight that she couldn't even hide, while the others looked shocked, finding it hard to believe. Divorce, how naive of you. Madame Zhou was the first to speak with disdain. You've been married into the Xie family for 3 years without bearing a child, failing in your wifely duties, disrespectful to your in-gen laws. And you still want a divorce. You should be grateful we're not giving you a letter of repudiation. The Xie family wants to repudiate me on the grounds of bearing no children. Anger flared within me, and I couldn't help but sneer coldly, less than 2 months after our marriage. Your precious son got himself convicted for running errands for the Lin family, and was exiled to Lingnan. He has been away for 3 years without returning to the capital. If I had gotten pregnant, would your family even dare acknowledge the child? You, Madame Zhou, knew she was in the wrong and was instantly too furious to speak. I turned to look directly at Shi Chengyan and said with firm resolve, 3 years ago, marrying into the Xie family wasn't my wish either. Now is the perfect time to correct that mistake with a divorce. From now on, we each marry as we please, with no ties to each other. Otherwise none of us will have a good time. Having just returned to the capital, he desperately needed a good reputation to win favor, establish his footing, and build connections. He should understand very well what I'm referring to. Seeing her husband in an awkward position, Lin Qingshu hastily feigned understanding. Why must Sister Xu be so aggressive? You know very well that it wasn't easy for Yan Jianlang to get reassigned back to the capital. He absolutely cannot have rumors spread about mistreating his original wife. It would affect his official career. She put on an act of considering the bigger picture, making compromises, looking pitiful and wronged. I know you're angry, sister. If you're angry, just come at me directly. It is all my fault. Please don't blame my husband or force him to divorce you, putting him in a position of being heartless and disloyal. From now on, I'll try not to appear before you or make you angry. Please, sister, just give us mother and child a way to survive. I'm begging you, Sister Xu. She spoke with tears in her eyes, then suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud, pitifully crawling toward me on her knees. Begging desperately, everyone was so shocked they couldn't bear to watch, thinking I shouldn't be so jealous and unforgiving. When you two were having your secret affair, I didn't see you worry about reputation, career, or the dignity of me, the legal wife. Before I could finish my blunt words, Lady Zhou shouted sternly, Xu Wenluan, do you not want to eat this meal? If you don't want to eat, get lost and go back to your courtyard to reflect on your mistakes. Stop being an eyesore here and ruining everyone's mood. Feeling stifled inside, I swept my gaze across the room full of disgusting faces, having no appetite. I turned and left directly. I really didn't want to eat at the same table anymore, watching people's expressions. I didn't obediently return to my courtyard to reflect. Instead, I turned around and left the estate to return to my maiden home. Ever since I heard that Shi Chengyan brought Lin Qingshu back from Lingnan and she bore him a child, I've been thinking about divorce. I secretly used my dowry silver to purchase a quiet residence and began transferring my private assets. Just because my father is the dancing example of doting on concubines and destroying his wife. Me mother's life is a mirror, already cautionary tale. I know very clearly what kind of dark and hopeless days an unloved legitimate wife lives, and what kind of treading den thin gen ice days the unloved legitimate children live. I don't want to compete with others for a hypocritical man. It is really pathetic. I don't want to repeat my mother's mistakes, and my child absolutely cannot rack their brains competing for that pitiful bit of fatherly love. Returning to the Zhu household, I ran into my father's favoured concubine, Chao Panna, as soon as I entered. She is my father's childhood sweetheart. They were betrothed when young, but after my father passed the imperial examination and wanted to stay in the capital as an official, to climb up to my maternal grandfather's connections, he sought to marry my mother. Later, when I was born, my father used it as an excuse to bring her to the capital and took her as a legal concubine. Now she has both sons and daughters, arrogant from being favoured, and wants to trample on my mother's head to lord over her, even constantly coveting my mother's generous dowry, always trying to exploit my maternal grandfather's family connections to secure futures for her children. Oh my, the eldest young miss is back. Chow Panna twisted her waist and walked toward me waving her round fan, while sizing me up with her eyes. She couldn't help mocking coldly. I heard your husband returned to the capital and brought back his sweetheart, along with a pair of children. TSK, TSK, how pitiful, can't even hold on to your own husband's heart. What is the use of putting on that stern face all day, pretending to be so high and mighty? I couldn't help but sneer back in retort. With the status of a concubine and the manner of a commoner, Aunt Chow is naturally the best at using her looks to serve men. Nearly 20 years in the capital, and your flattering skills have only grown more refined. Yu Chow Panna immediately turned green with anger, her lips trembling, speechless. I heard your son is discussing marriage prospects. I wonder, with those despicable tricks of yours that can't be shown in public, which blind noble lady from a prestigious family you'll manage to deceive into marrying in. I'll be watching with great interest. After speaking, I continued walking toward the back courtyard. Infuriated, Chow Panna couldn't help but curse loudly. Shu Wenluan, don't get too cocky. When you're divorced and cast out of the Xia family, becoming an abandoned wife, let's see how you'll still look down on others. I didn't bother with her anymore, just letting her rage impotently behind me. Mother. Entering the courtyard where my mother lived, she was sitting under the eaves doing needlework, hearing my call. She couldn't help but smile and lift her head, saying happily, "You're back. How do you have time to come back today?" I walked to her side, and once the maid brought over a stool, I sat down next to her. I missed you. As soon as I relaxed, I inexplicably felt wronged inside. As if in this world, only here was where I truly belonged. Did something happen? My mother keenly sensed my emotions and asked with concern. Si Chengyin has come back. Coming back with him were Lin Qingshu and their pair of children. My mother couldn't help but look shocked. What, they're tangled up together again? And they have children? I nodded glumly. Yeah, he wants a divorce. I don't want to be with him anymore. My mother immediately fell into thoughtful silence, her eyes fixed intently on the peony flowers in the courtyard, not speaking again for a long while. Many outsiders don't know this, but Shi Chengyin and I were betrothed since childhood. Later he fell for Lin Qingshu and insisted on breaking off the engagement to marry someone else. But Lin Qingshu was later taken with by the Prince of Wu, and the two could be said to have mutual affection. However, Wang Suxin, the legitimate daughter of the Yongning Marquis household, also liked the Prince of Wu and insisted on becoming the princess consort of Wu. Therefore, the Lin family was inexplicably dragged into an imperial examination cheating scandal. The entire Lin family was exiled to Lingnan, while Wang Suxin became the princess consort of Wu. Before this, Shi Chengyin's father, Shi Chen, as the vice-censor Jianingen chief, didn't want to offend the Prince of Wu because of his son's impulsiveness. Therefore, he hastily arranged the marriage between Shi Chengyin and me, cutting off his wishful thinking. At that time, Shi Chengyin came to force me to call off the engagement myself with a gloomy face, making it clear that he didn't like me at all, which made me extremely resistant to this marriage. However, at that time, Chow Panna and her son were eyeing us like tigers, coveting my mother's dowry, even going so far as to drug my mother, and my father only cared about using me to climb up to the powerful and wealthy. Getting married was my best way out of the Shu family quagmire at the time. Because of this, Shi Chengyin hated me to the bone for, 2 months after we got married, he never set foot in my courtyard even once. Later, he even angered the emperor by running around pleading for the Lin family, and was banished to Lingnan, leaving the capital never to return. Perhaps being banished to Lingnan was his ploy all along, just so he could go to Lingnan and be with Lin Qingshu. You've always had your own mind since you were little. If you've already decided and insist on divorce, Mother doesn't object and will respect your decision. After a long period of heavy contemplation, my mother finally gave her stance. My heart immediately settled down, as if I had found an anchor. I couldn't help but lean forward and hug my mother's arm, choking up a bit as I said, "Thank you, Mother, for being so open, den-minded and agreeing. Mother just doesn't want you to be like her, confined to the inner quarters, shoulder a heartless man and spending your days in melancholy, with a life that stretches endlessly ahead with no end in sight. My mother responded with great sadness and helplessness. Ever since my younger brother died young, she rarely smiles. The dirty scheming and bitter sorrow in this inner residence, she understands them more deeply than anyone else, and thus doesn't want me to repeat her mistakes. I couldn't help but console her with a heavy heart. After the divorce, I want to establish my own household and won't return to the XU family. Mother can move in and live with me then. We won't have to look at anyone's face anymore. What does Mother think? All right, my mother agreed readily. As for the Shu family, this place of heartbreak, she seemed to have no attachment left. In the evening, as I was leaving the Shu family residence, I happened to run into Chao Pana's son, Shu Shanjin. Coming back, I had no intention of greeting him and walked straight past him, but was suddenly rebuked. Stop. You act like no one exists. What kind of manners is this? It has always been this way. Got a problem with that? I turned back coldly and asked in return, not putting this illegitimate son in my eyes at all. His appearance takes after his father, delicate features and clear eyes, but his temperament takes after his mother, narrow, down-minded, shallow, not to mention vicious and cruel. At 5 years old, he deliberately pushed my younger brother into the pond to drown, which was ruled as an accident. What good could come from a naturally rotten seed like this? You're a married Dan-off daughter about to be cast out by your husband's family, with nowhere to go. What exactly do you still have to be proud of? Don't tell me you think father will disregard his reputation and let you return to the Shu family. Shu Xianjin mocked with a sneering laugh. You're a Duran after all, but aside from relying on being a man who can inherit the family business, what else can you do? Don't tell me that someone like you, lacking virtue and character, short-sighted, thinks you'll become some high official whose name will go down in history. You hearing the mockery, Shu Shanjin immediately flew into a rage, furiously charging straight at me with his hand raised to slap me across the face. But I was already prepared. My personal maid swiftly stepped forward to block him, pushing him back hard. A son born of a concubine is still a son born of a concubine, utterly lacking in upbringing. So crude and vulgar, you can't even learn the principle that a gentleman uses words, not fists. You simply don't deserve to be called a scholar, Shu Wenluan. Shut your mouth. You're just an inner chamber woman. What right do you have to talk about me like this? I naturally knew very well how to hit his sore spots and make him jump up and down in fury. Since childhood, taking advantage of my brother's early death and my mother having no more sons, he and his mother had made my mother suffer plenty. Not only did they covet my mother's dowry, he also wanted to be registered under my mother's name to gain the status of a legitimate son and curry favor with the powerful. I paid no more attention to his barking, turned around, boarded my carriage and left, returning to the Shia family, leaving him red Jan-faced and thick Jan-necked with anger, yet unable to do anything about me. Returning to the Shia family, the whole household was happily enjoying dinner together. I didn't foolishly go to the dining hall to join in the excitement. At night, Shi Chengyan suddenly came to my room, staring straight at me. It seemed like he had been building up courage for a long time before finally saying, "Whether it is reconciliation or divorce, both are bad for your reputation. From now on, Qingshu won't interfere with your position as the legitimate wife. The children she bears will also respect you and call you mother, as long as you behave yourself, don't make a fuss, and accept them as mother and child. It is not impossible for you to have a child by your side." I got it. He was trying to trap me with Sodan-called reputation, so he could enjoy having both women with a clear conscience. This made me sneer mockingly. To preserve your career and reputation, young Master Shi is really so flexible, making someone you despise occupy the position of legitimate wife. Aren't you and Lin Qingshu quite aggrieved by this? Xia Chengyan's face immediately turned ugly, and he said in embarrassed anger, "It was you who refused to break off the engagement back then. You knew I was devoted to Qingshu, yet you insisted on marrying in. This situation now is all your own doing, whether you accept it or not. You have to endure it. You have no choice. With an engagement binding you, not keeping your promise, falling for someone else, and you're quite proud of it. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. You're not the only man in the world, and I don't have to cling to you to survive. Your reputation was already gone 3 years ago. What does it matter to add one more stain of reconciliation and remarriage? I said disdainfully, and Xie Chengyan immediately became even angrier. The Xie family's door isn't somewhere you can enter as you please and leave as you please. Back then, you didn't hesitate to offend His Highness the Prince of Wu just to marry Lin Qingshe. Can you really bear to let her be a concubine for life? Is this all your so-called true feelings amount to? Or is it that because you got her in Lingnan, she is no longer appealing? I deliberately provoked him. Xie Chengyan became even more furious. She will get everything a legitimate wife deserves. No need for you to worry. Even now, you're still so cowardly, always compromising and settling for second best. If it weren't for your father protecting you, you'd probably just rot away in Lingnan for the rest of your life. The position of Prince of Wu's principal consort was enough to make the Lin family be inexplicably convicted and exiled. You don't know your place and dare to fight with His Highness, the Prince of Wu, over a woman. I wonder how many lives you have to withstand the fury of those in power. I mercilessly exposed his incompetent yet arrogant nature. Unfortunately, he just looked at me in shock and astonishment, as if he had suddenly heard some incredible truth, utterly dumbfounded. No way. I laughed mockingly with malice. You can't even read the court situation clearly. Can't guess the truth behind the Lin family's conviction 3 years ago. Don't know why your father was so eager to force you to marry me back then. You really are a worthless good Jan for den nothing who only knows romance and pleasure. Shut up! You're still as detestable as ever. Xie Chengyan stood up in uncontrollable fury, looking down at me from above. Divorce, don't even think about it. In this lifetime, you can only die of old age in the Xie family. If you want your days to be easier, you should think carefully about how to humble yourself and submit. After speaking, he directly flung his sleeves and left. It seems he just wants to drag me down, preferring to lose his wife rather than let me have peace. He wants me to surrender, and then beg for survival, wagging my tail under his hand. But I absolutely won't. I only want to be free and unrestrained. I don't want to be confined to the inner courtyard living by reading others' faces. The next day, my mother Jen Law Zhou summoned me to her courtyard to discuss arranging a celebration banquet for Xie Chengyan and Lin Qingshi. I've been married into the Xie family for over 3 years, and she has always looked at me with displeasure. Now she is actually asking me to discuss arranging a celebration banquet to publicly announce Lin Qingshu's identity, along with the 2 children. This is really like a weasel paying New Year's respects to a chicken. Wenluan, the 10th day, 6 days from now, is an auspicious day. The family plans to invite guests and hold a grand celebration banquet to publicly announce Qingshu's status as equal wife. At that time, the food and drink will be managed by you. Have the chefs from Jingshu Pavilion come help with the cooking and make it as grand as possible. Don't lose face for the Xie family. Zhou said in a seemingly gentle manner. Isn't this just making me, the original wife, pay money and effort to hold a grand celebration banquet for them? Sure, you get what you pay for. Borrowing the chefs from Treasured Delicacies Pavilion for a day means the pavilion closes for a day, with a baseline loss of 1,000 taels. Add in ingredients and labor costs. If you want it done properly, it'll start at 10,000 taels minimum. You'll need to pay up front before I can make any arrangements. I leisurely sipped my tea and explained the situation without emotion. Everyone present was instantly stunned, speechless. Zhou's face turned green with anger as she blurted out. Isn't Treasured Delicacies Pavilion the restaurant you manage? How can you demand silver from us for helping out the family with a small matter? I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Mother, you must be mistaken. Treasured Delicacies Pavilion is Princess Yongqing's business. I'm merely a partner who helps the princess manage her imperial merchant dealings. Borrow the chefs. We'd still need Princess Yongqing's approval. At the mention of Princess Yongqing's name, Zhou's expression immediately turned ugly. I then changed tack and asked without any courtesy. Unless, is Mother expecting me to pay out of my own pocket and use my personal savings to host this wedding banquet? Although the Xie family had plenty of farmland and shops, Joe wasn't good at managing them, and often subsidized her maiden family. Coming up with 10,000 taels in cash all at once for a wedding banquet was like cutting flesh from her body. I swept my gaze over Shi Chengyan and Lin Qingshu's ugly expressions and sneered mockingly. Young Master Xia wants to take a second wife. Yet it's me, the original wife, to pay for the wedding banquet. What thick skin. No wonder he refuses to divorce me. Turns out he can't bear to part with my dowry. Hearing the mockery, Yixi Chengyan clenched his hands into fists, but was too guilty to say anything. Lin Qingxia, on the other hand, put on a delicate and weak act, hiding in the back while instigating others to fight for her interests. Xie Chengyan's younger sister, Shi Wan, suddenly spoke up with an air of righteousness. All these years you've been using the title of young madam of the Xie household to show your face in public doing business. The silver you've earned should rightfully belong to the Xie family. What is wrong with asking you to take it out for family matters? Fine, I can pay this 10,000 taels of silver. I smiled meaningfully. Just as everyone's eyes showed surprise and their faces lit up with joy, he poured cold water on them. Bring me the divorce papers in exchange. Then you'll get the silver to hold a grand wedding for someone new, saving both face and dignity. Why wouldn't you do it? Everyone's expressions instantly turned extremely ugly. You're so eager to divorce. You must already have someone else in mind. I heard you've been in close contact with young Master Su. Slap. Before Xie Wan could finish her slanderous words, I had already risen swiftly and viciously slapped her across the face. If you dare spout more nonsense and ruin my reputation, I'll tear your mouth apart. You're just lovesick over young Master Su, and because he doesn't fancy you, you go around slandering others. You're spouting blood. Xie Wan covered her face, rebutting with tears in her eyes. Do you know why young Master Su doesn't like you? Because you have no character, no virtue, and no manners. I showed no mercy. Xie Wan became hysterical with anger. Xu Wenluan, how are you any better? You knew my brother had someone in his heart, yet you shamelessly married into the family. He is bound by a marriage contract, yet his heart belongs to another. That is called breaking one's word. This isn't true love. This is called rotting from the top down. Slap. Before I could finish my mocking words, Sumoon suddenly yanked my shoulder forcefully, and Xie Changyan, furious and humiliated, slapped me across the face. Then he hastily tried to cover. You've gone too far. You shouldn't run your mouth like this. Slap. I immediately slapped him back with my other hand, sneering. You dare do it but won't let people talk about it. Tell me, if it weren't for the Princess of Wu interfering back then, would Lin Qingshu really have willingly given up wealth and glory to marry you? Shi Chengyan was instantly speechless. Lin Qingshu sobbed and explained. Sister Shu, why must you slander us with such accusations? We truly love each other. Why can't you just let us be and give us a way out? What an act. Back then, the position of Prince Wu's principal consort almost went to you, didn't it? You must have been so proud. Too bad, it ended with your whole family being exiled. I looked at them coldly, turned around and left. I really didn't want to waste any more words on this group of hypocrites. 2 nights later, in the dead of night, Lin Qingshu, the Zhou family, and the others couldn't contain their anger, and finally used the most filthy and despicable methods against me. When I was sound asleep, I suddenly heard the sound of the window being pried open. A black shadow snuck into the room, and a strong stench of cheap alcohol hit my nose. I immediately woke up alarmed, just as that strange man tried to cover my mouth with a cloth and bind me up. I struggled free with all my strength and screamed. From above came the man's lowered voice with a vile threat. Little lady, stop screaming. As long as I stay in this room tonight, even if we do nothing, when people find us tomorrow morning, your virtuous reputation will be ruined. Cooperate obediently and pay up to avoid disaster. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Hearing this, what was there left for me not to understand? To seize a woman's dowry without bloodshed. The most vicious method is to frame her for having no virtue and committing adultery. Once caught in adultery, I would be branded with the crime of disgracing the family, and my husband's family could manipulate my life and death at will. But they underestimated me. Under my pillow, I always kept a dagger for self-defense. When the dagger sharply sliced through the man's arm in the darkness, he let out a miserable scream. I flipped over and got out of bed, my gaze ice Jen cold, gripping the dagger as I pressed forward step by step. You dare scheme against me? At worst, we'll die together tonight. Let's see if you have the life to take this dirty money. That thug was just a small Dan-time hoodlum taking money to do a job. Seeing me so desperate and armed with a knife, he clutched his bleeding arm in terrified panic. He turned and fumbled in the dark toward the door, but was knocked down at the doorway by Xiao Mei, the guard maid who came running at the sound holding a wooden stick. He covered his wound and wailed incessantly. "Miss, are you all right?" Xiao Mei held up a torch, asking in panic. I put on my outer garment without a scratch, holding the dagger and looking down at the person on the ground with a cold laugh. "Light all the candles in a moment. There will be a good show of catching adulterers coming to our door." Everything was about as I predicted. Before long, the adultery Dan-catching squad, led by Lady Joe, came rushing over in full force and burst open the courtyard gate, loudly yelling about catching adulterers. However, when they saw me standing coldly at the steps fully dressed and holding a dagger, while that thug was tied up and thrown on the ground, confessing and begging for mercy, Ivrion was shocked and stunned. "Oh my gosh, she is a total badass. Did everyone see that? This is the most sinister and vicious move in ancient household scheming, reputation framing. The Shi family wanted the woman's dowry, but didn't want to be labelled as mistreating the original wife, so they actually paid thugs to stage a secret rendezvous. In ancient times, once a woman's virtue was tarnished, she basically had no choice but death, and her property would legitimately fall into her husband's family's pocket. But is our Wenluan a pushover? She keeps a dagger under her pillow at all times and goes straight into hard combat. When Lady Joe brought a whole group of people in a grand procession to catch the adulteress, expecting to see the female lead ruined and crying in despair, what they saw instead was a domineering heroine who had already subdued the thug's surprise. Toxic family. Not only is the guy you sent to waste, but he ran into someone tough. This is the lesson for all girls. Always have the ability to protect yourself and the courage to flip the table. You don't mess with a queen. Very disappointed, aren't you? Things didn't develop as you wished, I asked with a mocking smile. What is going on here? Lady Joe forced herself to stay calm, her eyes evasive. Shi Chengyan and Lin Qingxu, following behind her, had extremely unnatural expressions on their faces. Imperial Censor Jan and Jan Chief Shi Chan walked into the courtyard afterward, and seeing the scene before him, couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "What on earth is going on here?" I pointed at the thugs on the ground and sneered coldly. "You should ask your good wife and good son about this. To seize my dowry." They didn't hesitate to hire street ruffians to sneak into my room in the middle of the night, attempting to fabricate the illusion that I was having an affair. Lord Shi, these criminals have already confessed everything. The way your Shia family conducts itself, Jian, your methods are truly disgraceful. Xia Qian's expression instantly became extremely ugly, as if he had been slapped in the face in public. Madame Zhou still spoke stubbornly. "Xu Wenluan, you're making false accusations. It was clearly you who failed to uphold wifely virtues and invited the wolf into the house." I couldn't be bothered to argue with her, staring sharply at Xie Qian. "Lord Shi, everything requires evidence. These criminals are right here, and at daybreak I will turn them over to the Shuntian prefecture. Don't forget, I'm still in charge of Princess Yongqing's imperial merchant business. If the princess learns that her business partner nearly met with harm at the Xie household and investigates thoroughly, I'm afraid Lord Xia's official hat as Vice Censor Jen and Jen Chief won't be secure either." Upon hearing that it would alarm Princess Yongqing and might even result in punishment and removal from office, Shi Chan's expression changed drastically. After weighing the pros and cons, he glared fiercely at Madame Zhou. "Lord Shi, you've seen it yourself. Your son and I can no longer live together peacefully." I pressed my advantage. "I want a divorce agreement. As long as I get the divorce agreement, I'll treat tonight's incident as just an ordinary burglary and won't implicate the Xia family. From now on, we'll each go our separate ways, free to marry whomever we please." Xie Chan's face turned extremely gloomy as he said through gritted teeth, Will your father agree to let you divorce and return home? Everything else is none of your concern, I said firmly. Zizan, give her the divorce agreement. After Xie Chan shouted harshly, feeling utterly humiliated, he immediately turned and left with a flick of his sleeve. Xie Chengyan said urgently, Father, this absolutely cannot be done. She is determined to leave. Do you still want to keep her and bring trouble upon yourself? Si Chan roared angrily without looking back. Did you hear that Chris smack's music to my ears? That slap was so satisfying, it cleared up all the knots I've had for days. Let's highlight the key points. Turns out 3 years ago, when the Lin family was exiled to Lingnan, it wasn't some star-crossed lovers torn apart by tyranny melodrama at all. It was Lin Qingshu, that master-level green tea bitch, who tried to destroy Miss Wang's the legitimate fiancé's reputation to steal the position of princess consort of Wu in the end. She screwed up and brought disaster upon her whole family. This is called karma. What is hilarious is that our true love warrior ex-husband Xi Chengyan still stupidly thought Lin Qingshu was an innocent white moonlight and went begging for mercy, throwing away his own future. He is literally the clown of the year. The Xia family left in disgrace, not daring to mention another word about the dowry. The next day, holding the divorce agreement, I borrowed guards from Princess Yongqing's residence to move all my dowry. Everyone in the Xia household was silent as cicadas in winter. No one dared to obstruct, watching chest after chest of gold and silver being carried away. Xi Chengyan suddenly said unwillingly, Why must you and I come to this? It is not too late for you to change your mind now. I looked at him contemptuously. If I hadn't been prepared last night, I'd already be a disgraced corpse by now. Put away that fake show of affection. It truly makes me sick. Everyone else can have 3 or 4 wives. Why are you so stubborn? You have no tolerance for others at all, Xi Chengyan reproached resentfully. You still want 3 or 4 wives? Without my dowry to support you, can you even afford it? I mocked mercilessly. After leaving the Xia family, he immediately went to the government office to change my household registration, completely severing ties with the Xia family. In the afternoon, he decisively sent people to fetch my mother, moving all her personal belongings to the estate I had prepared long ago. When my father Xu Zheng returned home after finishing work, he found my mother's courtyard completely emptied. Instigated by Chao Panna and her son with their inflammatory words, he flew into a rage and stormed straight to my residence to demand an explanation. Xu Wenluan, you ungrateful wretch, who gave you permission to divorce? Get out here now. Xu Zheng stood in the front courtyard with his hands on his hips, cursing loudly, followed by Chao Panna and other concubines and illegitimate children. I walked out with the guards borrowed from the princess's residence and said coldly, Whether or not I divorce is none of your business. I'm your father, Xu Zheng roared angrily. Aside from providing a surname, what else have you done? All these years, you've been living off a woman, relying entirely on my mother's dowry to support this entire household full of concubines and illegitimate children. What face do you even have to come here and make a scene? I pointed at the concubine's unborn son, Xu Xianjin, behind him. You know damn well the truth about how my younger brother drowned back then. Did you think that without a legitimate son, everything my mother has would naturally become yours? Dream on. You're talking nonsense. That was an accident. Xu Zheng hastily defended himself. Whether it was an accident or not, heaven is watching. You'd better quickly agree to divorce my mother. Otherwise, I don't mind asking the princess to step in and investigate all the embezzlement and corruption from your years as an official. When your whole family gets exiled, don't blame me for turning against my own kin. Hearing the warning, Xu Zheng looked at my mother in shock. Nianci, we've been husband and wife for over 20 years. Do you truly have no regard for our marital bond? My mother looked at him resolutely. You favored your concubine and mistreated your wife. Indulged the concubine's unborn son who killed my child. Did you ever show the slightest regard for our bond? All I want is the divorce papers. Otherwise, I'll go beat the denunciation drum and ruin your reputation completely. Xu Zheng knew well that my mother meant what she said, and on top of that, he feared the power of the princess's manner, so he stormed off in anger. The next day, my mother received the sealed divorce papers and immediately wept tears of joy, tears streaming down her face. She was finally free. However, To preserve their reputation, the Xie family actually spread rumors outside, saying that Xie Chengyan was a devoted romantic. While I was narrowed and minded and didn't uphold wifely virtue, and that the Xie family pitied me, and thus granted the divorce papers, my childhood friend and good friend Su Jianhei was so angry that he directly brought people to block them on the street and beat up Xie Chengyan. When I arrived, Su Jianhei was pointing at Xie Chengyan's nose and cursing, "3 years ago you were demoted because of a scheming woman, trampling Wenluan's dignity into the ground. 3 years later you brought back an illegitimate child and want to seize her dowry. You're simply a sanctimonious hypocrite." Xie Chengyan was beaten black and blue, but because he was in the wrong, he couldn't say a single word in rebuttal. Lin Qingshu sobbed pitifully on the side. "Young Master Su, how can you slander people like this? Put away your seductive tricks." Su Jianhei showed no mercy. 3 years ago, in order to snatch the position of Princess Wu, you secretly framed Miss Wang, which led to her entire family being exiled. This idiot, Xie Chengyan, still thought you were an innocent white moonlight and ran to take the blame for you. You two are a perfect match, an idiot and a vicious woman. Lin Qingshu's face turned deathly pale, her whole body trembling, and she no longer dared to argue back. Su Jianhei turned and pulled me. "Let's go, don't dirty our eyes. Heaven will deal with them sooner or later." I looked at the Xie family's wretched state and left without looking back. "Ninga, will you marry me?" While applying medicine to Su Jianhei's cheek, he suddenly asked with a sincere expression. "Ninga is my childhood name. He has always called me that in private." Seeing me stunned, Su Jianhei hurriedly added, "Or he could marry into your family. I'm the youngest son in my family and won't inherit the title. My parents are very open Zen-minded and will definitely agree. He works in the Ministry of Works, has an easygoing personality, and is extremely creative. He can often design trendy clothing styles for me, making my shop's business boom. Sure, but you have to marry into my family, and we won't live with your parents afterward to avoid Mother Jan law troubles. If your family agrees, we'll get married." I agreed with a smile. The SU family parents were truly open and minded. Not only did they agree, but they also personally came to propose. The wedding date was set for a month later. It was said that when Madame Zhou heard this news, she angrily smashed all the tea sets in the room, and Xie Chengyan, for abandoning his wife without cause, was impeached by the censorate. Not only was he beaten with rods, but his salary was also cut for half a year. With no hope of promotion, Madame vented all her anger on Lin Qingshui, cursing her as a jinx. The mother Janlaw and daughter Janlaw tore into each other daily at home, causing constant chaos. A year after marriage, I successfully gave birth to a son named Fuan. My mother lived a comfortable life doting on her grandson. Her whole person was rejuvenated, no longer having to look at that heartless man's face. As for Xie Chengyan and Lin Qingshu, they became a completely resentful couple. Xie Chengyan's career hit a setback, so he blamed his grievances on Lin Qingshu. Lin Qingshu was unwilling to live in poverty, and the two despised each other. At a merchant association banquet, I unfortunately ran into them. The two were arguing red and faced over a bit of money, with no dignity whatsoever. Seeing me dressed in fine clothes, gently protected by Su Jianhei, at my side, Lin Qingshu's eyes were full of jealousy and resentment. "Wenluan, are you feeling smug?" she said through gritted teeth. I didn't even bother to give her a glance. Holding on to Su Jianhei's arm, he walked past her casually. "Whether your life is good or bad has nothing to do with me. Don't think too highly of yourself." On the way home, I heard my son's crisp laughter and my mother's joyful tone teasing the child. I took a deep breath of free air. I have never regretted my decision to cut my losses in time and pull away decisively. If I hadn't been brave enough to flip over that rotten game, how would I have this vast and boundless life I have now? Phew! If the old-school female empowerment stories got their thrills from trampling the bad guys underfoot, then Wenluan's story teaches us a higher philosophy of survival. Walk away, just walk away, and go build your own paradise. The core of this story that moved me the most is actually 4 words. cut losses in time. Look at Wenluan's mother, Niancy. She endured over 20 years in the Shu family's hell, filled with scheming favoritism and soft rice eating, doting on the mistress, while destroying the wife and still living off the wife's dowry. 20 years she lost her son, lost her dignity, watching her husband and his mistress lord it over her every day. Why didn't she leave? Because in the social environment of that time she feared the sunk cost, feared her daughter would have no one to rely on, feared society's judgment. But when Wenluan used her actual actions to tell her, "Mother, we can stand on our own. We don't have to live looking at other people's faces," she finally woke up. The tears of joy when she got the divorce papers were a rebirth that finally broke through the soil after burying 20 years of youth. I am going to get a little personal with you guys. I am going to share something personal with you. In the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I got stuck in a really toxic social circle and major. At that time, I was in a business-related combined program, and people in that circle were constantly engaged in extremely draining comparisons every day, comparing whose internship was better, who wore more designer brands. And there was this one girl who would constantly aggressively talk about me behind my back, and even steal my credit. I was in so much pain at the time, feeling suffocated every day. But everyone told me, "Elena, you've already stuck it out for 2 years. This program looks great on your resume. If you quit now, the tuition and all, nighters from the past 2 years will all be wasted. The sunk cost is too high." I was just like Wenluan's mother, trapped in the Shu family for that illusory bright future and what others think, stuck in constant internal struggle every day. Until one day, I passed out in the library from too much stress. When I woke up and looked at the ceiling, it suddenly clicked. If it costs you your peace, it is too expensive. The next day, I decisively went and processed the withdrawal from the project, shifted all my energy back to my beloved English literature and media, and completely blocked everyone in that circle. In the first few months after quitting, I was pretty anxious too, afraid others would laugh at me for giving up halfway. But guess what? I met a group of truly like-minded friends, just like how Wenluan met Sujianhe, who only had eyes for her. And now my grades are not only top of the department, but I've also started doing the self-media content I am most passionate about. Besties, this is what I want to say to you most. Never feel like you have to stick it out to the bitter end just because you've invested too much time in the wrong person, the wrong job, or the wrong relationship. Why was scumbag Shi Chengyan so sure Wenluan wouldn't leave? Because he thought you've been married to me for 3 years. Your reputation is already tied to this. Where else can you go besides depending on me? But he underestimated the power of a clear-headed woman. Wenluan's decisiveness was, "I don't even want your fake-ass reputation anymore. I only want freedom and my own money." Actually, the greatest courage in real life isn't fighting with pigs in the mud and winning, but looking at the pigs in the mud and saying, "You know what? This is not my circus, not my monkeys." Then turning around to take a shower, putting on your prettiest clothes and walking toward the vast world that belongs to you. If life becomes a dead end, don't hesitate. Instead of breaking through the wall, just turn around decisively. Giving up sometimes isn't failure, but making room to welcome true happiness. Remember, you are the author of your own life. Don't let toxic people hold your pen. Love you guys. See you next time.